atrocious finish.
In 2010, a Frankenstein's monster of a football team was assembled.
It's John Terry off the line for England.
Led by the Wally with the brolly, it was a dirty dozen, certain to send shivers down the spine of any self-respecting England football fan. 4 years later, with new evidence come to light, it's time to reopen the case for the prosecution and find out who will be charged with membership of England's worst ever football team. Before World Cup 2010, no one could argue with who was in England's worst ever team. That was before the dirty dossier that was England in South Africa could be presented as admissible evidence.
Now there's a race on between Barry and Ozil has eaten up the ground on Gareth Barry. Again, Muller is over, and Ozil has found him, and Muller has sealed it.
And while we consider that evidence, others just got angry.
I am absolutely gutted, and I think it's disgusting. Plus the fact the amount of money they get for what they do, and they can't score a goal. I'm sorry, we're all downhearted.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you can stretch right up and touch the sky.
So in the aftermath of the last World Cup, and with Brazil looming on the horizon, what better time to cast a critical eye over those who've worn the three lions and failed to cut the mustard.
The impression that he just wants to nut everyone.
You cannot claim another man's goal.
Wait, this is gonna go in? Oh my God, my career!
Featuring gross misconduct on and off the pitch, the next 60 minutes will be a romp through the rose gallery of English football, featuring the mad, the bad, the dangerous, the good, the bad and the ugly.
Make a Nazi henchman look approachable. What a face.
Get back in West End, mate. What, you been playing football, you crap?
Oh dear, we might have to call the Prime Minister.
So football fans across the land, cover your eyes, put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, because it's a return of your worst nightmare. It's a return of England's worst ever football team.
You've been struck by a smooth criminal.
Okay, let the calamity commence. Starting at the back, it's time to put the custodians in custody.
There's no mercy for goalies. There really isn't.
Last time out, keeping goal for England's worst ever team was Peter the Cat Bonetti.
And good handling by Bonetti.
Who took his eye off the ball just long enough to lose the crown jewels, a.k.a. the World Cup.
Peter Bonetti couldn't get to it.
But time is a great healer, and perhaps there's no time like the present to reopen the case for who should be between the posts.
It just... Up it goes. There's nothing he can do about that.
Oh, Robinson! It's the worst goal that you will ever see England concede.
When Paul Robinson had the misfortune of being undone by some sneaky foreign soil, it undermined the entire union of England goalkeepers.
That does seem to have set off this chain reaction of incompetence through the ages, that now no English goalkeeper is capable of surviving very long without doing something extremely stupid.
So how long could England worst ever hopeful Rob Green survive without doing something extremely stupid?
Every game he has to suffer the slings and arrows of penalty box elbows, you know, throwing himself into the line of fire. There is 1,000,001 ways that a goalkeeper can injure himself, but the safest thing he has to do is get a goal kick, where no one's even allowed to stand near him.
Fortunately though, this game was only for England's B team, and Green put it behind him, earning himself a call-up to the national team 4 years later. So with England leading USA 1-0, it's imperative to keep things tight at the back.
This is the opening game for England. I watched this in a pub in Scotland, and Gerrard had scored, and to be honest, we all had presumed that England would go on and win it by 2 or 3.
And we all had that confidence, didn't we? Go, Rob Green, mate. Oh, he's reliable. What a safe pair of hands. That's the epitome of a goalkeeper.
And then again, an incredibly meek shot from, I think it might have even been Clint Dempsey.
It was Clint Dempsey that took it.
Clint Dempsey's fireball of a shot
was just completely missed altogether.
This is Dempsey. Decent try, Green spilled it! The United States are level!
Everyone had turned away. Even in the pub, people are now at the jukebox, going to the fruit machine, up to the bar, and everybody on the pitch looked like they'd done the same thing, apart from Rob Green, who I think in his head was at a bar.
And it's a nightmare moment for Rob Green!
They just slowly passes through him, and he's just like, wait, this is just about to happen. Wait, this is gonna go in! Oh my God, my career!
And that just shot the team of all confidence from then on.
And yet, the cruelty of football is such that even when you do this to keep your team in the game,
A rash challenge and Altidor's got through, and a fantastic save by Rob Green!
next day's papers still read badly.
You're judged on one moment for the rest of your life, which is terrible. It's like when the best friend at my school shut themselves in the swimming gala. Very similar thing. They got bullied for years after that, and all it was one moment or one day, and that ruins the rest of your life, and that's ruined Robert Green's life. Completely ruined his life.
Being an England keeper isn't easy. Things happen, and our next suspect went into meltdown when he had to clean up the toxic mess left by Paul Robinson's bobble apocalypse. Still, it seemed like he was up for it before the game.
I think if you're going pound for pound, incompetence per minute on the pitch, you really have to look at Scott Carson.
One opportunity.
It was another crucial game as well. England could get to the Euros, and they were playing Croatia at home, no problem. We've got our big players, no problem.
Eduardo in the centre. Cranshaw will shoot from here. Oh, it's gone right through! It's deceived Scott Carson, and England are a goal down.
It's almost the inevitability of a Greek tragedy. You just know it's coming, and then when it does, it's all your worst fears confirmed.
And I thought, oh, this ain't going to be a good night. I mean, I started laughing, obviously, at that point.
Well, the first rule of goalkeeping, John, is keep your eye on the ball.
But it's not all doom and gloom for Carson in England, because it could have actually been doom and gloom. Don't believe us? Listen to this.
You might have ended up working at Sellafield, is that right?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I think it's the main source of income in West Cumbria, so... Well, even then, I might not have been able to get onto there because it's not as easy as people think, just getting a job on the site there.
Scott Carson, if he was working at Sellafield, you wouldn't exactly want to be handing him one of the radioactive rods. Here, Scott, have one of these. Oh dear, we might have to call the Prime Minister.
Thankfully, Sellafield's employment standards are more rigorous than those for an England goalkeeper. But that's not to say there's no competition for the goalkeeping position in England's worst ever team.
You need hands to hold someone you can.
As over the years, England's keepers have had us all holding our heads in their hands. However, this time, we've narrowed the field to Rob Green and Scott Carson.
For me, the choice there is like choosing between the Chuckle Brothers. It's not really much of an option.
He's there 9 minutes and he's thrown one in a must-win game against Croatia. You know, I'm really sorry. I feel terrible about it, but that's enough to win my vote.
And so, for dereliction of duty in a key international, filling the post for England's worst ever football team, it's Scott Carson. From an inability to keep things tight at the back, we take a headlong charge to catch up with who's been playing fast and loose up front. In the original lineup for England's worst ever team, causing havoc up front with John Fashanu and Michael Ricketts. Two men with 100% records for England. That's 100% non-scoring records. But in this retrial, will the original ruling be overturned? Well, new research has found 3 one-cat wonders who might just be the perfect fit. Back in 2003, when Francis Jeffers was known as a fox in a box, he did this on his one and only England call-up.
Francis Jeffers,
famous fox in the box who was signed from Everton to Arsenal for a lot of money and expected to take Arsenal onto the next level. Spectacularly failed to deliver in his career, and so I don't think he should have the solace of having a 1 game, 1 goal ratio for England to hide behind.
But our next suspect didn't even try to hide behind his record. This arch-villain wanted the world to know what he was all about.
David Nugent! Fantastic finish!
It's the scourge of lower league defences everywhere. David Nugent.
Simple tap in for the master poacher.
Whose got goals for Preston led to an England call-up against the mighty Andorra.
Imagine being stood for team photo with David Nugent. Be like, David Nugent.
Although David Nugent didn't start the game, he did finish.
Johnson's place taken by the 21-year-old from Preston North End.
I love that goal. It's one of my favourite things I've ever seen.
And Jermaine Defoe is onside.
No, not that goal. This goal.
And it's squeezed past Caldo.
Not since Alan Shearer have we had a striker with such clinical finishing.
1 inch out. It probably was halfway on. It was on the line.
It was practically in already, and he lashed it in.
Clinical, I think it's called. Clinical finishing.
You have to applaud the ambition. He certainly wanted that goal. Whether or not Jermaine Defoe ever spoke to him again is a different matter entirely.
We're a little confused. Did you score on your debut or not?
Yes, I did. You know, obviously the ball was on the line. I've had 15 texts on my phone saying it was my goal, so, you know, 1 cut, 1 goal, you know, I'm claiming the goal.
You cannot claim another man's goal as it's going over the line. That is not okay. Jermaine Defoe, he did his job. David Nugent, all he needed to do was kind of like shelter it in. Come on, little ball, go over the line, you know, back off some other players, you know, just basically protect it. Protect the ball going into the hole.
It's the whole of the ball over the line, don't forget.
Into the goal, well, I should say.
What does Jermaine have to say about it?
No, he's not that too bothered, you know, obviously, if he was in the position he would have done the same thing, he said. You know, so everyone's made up for me, and then, you know, it's glad that I approached that on the line.
From that example of outright theft, we investigate a notorious smash and grab artist. Bolton legend, Kevin Davies, who when called up to the national team proper, brought his full range of attributes to the international stage.
Kevin Davies' style was to just kick other men.
He just batters people. He's actually used by police to knock down drug dealers' doors. They just throw him in there and see what happens.
It's all arse, isn't it, Kevin Davies? He's got like the biggest bum this side of Beyonce. Kevin Davies is like tactics, like, right, back up to centre half, give a bit of batty, wind me batty into him. My arse is that big, I'll just, like, bum him into the crowd. You know what I mean? That's Kevin Davies. He's like a battering ram with his arse.
Kevin Davies has given away more fouls than any other player in Premier League history, which gives you an idea of the style that he had. So when he played for England, he got booked. Of course he got booked. He's Kevin Davies.
That's his thing. He's going to be able to say that. Played for England once, got a yellow card. Be telling that in the pub for years. Probably telling it at the bar, which he gets to by just fouling other men in the way of him.
Sadly for Kevin Davies fans, his international debut was also his international swan song. But the stoic Davies took it philosophically on Twitter.
I quite like that. He tweets out, I haven't made it. I'm going to go and have a pint. Of course I am, because you're going to go and watch England like every other lad. I quite like him for that.
So who's going to be up front in the worst team ever? Well, after a vision of the evidence of the one-cap strikers, Kevin Davies has bottomed out. Francis Sheffers is just too foxy. So striking berth number 1 goes to goal thief, David Nugent. But who will be his striking accomplice? Well, once again, we couldn't look beyond this striking accomplice.
I think John Fashanu is a solid contender for worst England 11.
John Fashanu, I think I'm pronouncing it right.
Yes.
He had no touch, he had no skill, but he was a menace to defenders.
He has obviously got the reputation for aggression in that attack.
Fashanu does not intend to give ground.
Just underperformed, looked completely out of his depth. It looked a little bit like a giraffe in England kit, sort of running around, limbs everywhere.
Fashanu got all mixed up.
Fashanu was a very useful footballer if you wanted, you know, a door broken down or a wall caved in, that kind of thing. Maybe not the delicate front man that we could have done with at that time.
However, any England's worst ever team can always do with Fash up front. John, you're on. Time now to deal with the engine room of this malfunctioning bunch of misfits. 4 years ago, Carlton Palmer unreservedly played his way into England's worst ever team. But this time, might he unpick himself?
From space, the first thing you see is the Great Wall of China, and the second thing is Carlton Palmer's legs.
It was the strangest sight. It was like picking a daddy longlegs and putting him in an England shirt.
Let's not get hung up on his looks. The question is, could Carlton play, or could he not?
Knocked back to Palmer.
Not one of Carlton's best, that.
Palmer.
I think there was lots of hopes for Carlton Palmer to be able to bestride the game like a midfield colossus, an English Vieira, before Vieira was even invented.
Foul, was it? Yeah.
He showed determination and he had a bit of flair about him. I don't know if I've just said that. He did have flair. You didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't know what he was going to do.
Rigo plays it inside to Palmer. Overran it.
I don't think it was particularly surprising that Carlton Palmer never delivered anything much more than a long-range clog.
Palmer had more time than he took.
I don't want to see a worst 11 that hasn't got Carlton Palmer in it.
Yep, just as last time, Carlton takes his place on England's worst ever team. But who will be his partner in crime? Well, perhaps it could be one of these three legends of the game. Players of the highest calibre who promised much and delivered a little less. It's time to go after the Untouchables. Now bear with us. But for every bit of Stevie G where this has happened, there has been a bit of Stevie G where this has happened.
Oh, it's Henry! It's a mistake by Gerrard! And we have a penalty! Steven Gerrard with an awful back pass!
We're just saying.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
He was always a player who relied on gut instinct. Whenever Gerrard got the ball, there was a little sort of glazed over look in his eyes. He just wanted to pump it 60 yards into the right channel. It was what he was born to do.
Gerrard is a wonderful player, phenomenon, but let's be honest, he is Teflon as well. Some of the things he gets away with. The man was caught diving against Andorra. The indignity of diving against Andorra.
This was the earlier dive from Steven Gerrard that went unpunished. He knew what he'd done all right. So did Calder, the keeper.
But no one ever mentions it.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Moving swiftly on. Let's take a pot shot at the untouchable number 2.
Frank Lampard is apparently a bit of a genius. He has an IQ higher than Carol Vorderman, I heard.
Einstein, go. Yes, one would expect the published author with an IQ of over 150 to grasp the Einstein maxim, stating that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
But he doesn't seem to learn from his mistakes, like Frank. Hitting it from 30 yards every time you are 30 yards away from the goal is not the answer. You never score.
Bang, bang, my baby shot me down.
It's fallen for Frank Lampard!
Well struck and well saved too.
He's had 37 shots in a World Cup without scoring a goal. That is a record, and not a good one.
That is an incredible stat, and to have scored none, you know, again, is an achievement in itself.
Lampard. Always wide. Frank Lampard is going to go through another World Cup without scoring.
He always shoots. I hate that type of player. You can see guys screaming wide, going, "Me, over here, Frank. I could score from here, or I could put a cross in. No, I'm going to shoot. Yeah!"
Defoe, that's a lovely touch. Lampard! Brilliant!
It was in, no!
Yeah, that surely crossed the line.
Of course, the one goal he does score is wrongly chalked off against Germany in Bloemfontein. Although I'm not quite sure it really did cross the line.
Here we go. Oh!
My sympathy was perhaps not that pronounced simply because we effectively lost the World Cup through a wrong decision of the ball bouncing clearly on the line. Things tend to even themselves out in football. It just sometimes takes a bit longer.
Well, Frank and Steve may well be delivering or failing once again in Brazil. Untouchable number 3 will definitely be at home with his feet up, watching it on telly.
Paul Scholes, sexy little ginger bastard.
Scholes is one of history's worst tragedies. Scholes is what happens when England occasionally get their hands on a truly great player. It's like giving a laptop to a 3-year-old. They don't know how to use it.
The idea that Scholes is up for nomination for worst centre midfielder, I don't understand that. He's one of the most sublimely talented players I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. The way he'd drop off, find space, calm on the ball, almost like a Spanish central midfielder you'd associate with now, just so un-English in the way he played. Brilliant.
Off the goalkeeper, Wayne Rooney, Scholes! Into the equaliser!
Only thing with Scholes is, only reason he might make it into worst 11 is he retired a little bit early. Do you know what I mean? He's like that kid at work, you know when you're at work and you're finishing at 5 and kids are like, I'm just going to nip off, like, you what? Not finished for another 3/4 of an hour. Where are you going? Not finished yet. A bit of that. Lazy bastard.
Where were you while we were getting high?
And he played, what, like another 8 years for United and ended up probably getting better in a certain way. So he sort of left us when we needed him most.
And even in retirement, Scholes was still turning it on. Only serving to make us more wistful than ever.
Jumped off the ship too soon. Should have stayed on there like the band in the Titanic.
Try as we might, we can't make any of the evidence on these three stick. However, worst team ever fans shouldn't fear, as we found a perfect partner in crime for Carlton Palmer.
We can only say with Carlton Palmer perhaps saw somebody out there that wasn't there, the invisible man.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Impetuousness is an absolute requisite for this team, which is why Vinnie Jones, the king of the 3-second yellow card, the most impetuous player that God ever put on a football pitch, he's got to be a shoo-in for this side.
Tottenham in all yellow to kick off. With the first player and the first tackle of the night by Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones, he looks like staying in for the 2 runs, doesn't he?
And who are we to argue, as Vinnie Jones, legally or otherwise, in fact, always otherwise, knew how to stop the opposition from playing.
Grabbing Paul Gascoigne between the legs, it sort of exemplified everything that he was all about, which is just sort of being hard, being terrifying, biting and growling his way around the pitch.
Oh, it's painful to think about, isn't it?
I was going to say, I hope he plays the ball today, Jeff. You know, the big round.
The big one, yes.
Yeah.
The shot is on from him, and it's a useful one too.
Hang on a minute, though. Vinnie Jones has 9 caps for Wales. That makes him Welsh.
Let's clear one thing up. My bum cheek is more Welsh than you, mate. You're not Welsh, are you? Let's be honest. You're from Watford, the same as Jerry Halliwell, George Michael, Elton John. You're from Watford, Vinny, and there's nothing Welsh about Watford, is there?
So having claimed him back for England, let's get him back into contention for England's worst ever team. Just think of what this born leader of men could do for morale.
And I'm telling you something right now,
My money's on them winning this game. Unless you can pull yourselves out of bed and get in here and work hard and win the ball and pass the ball. I see it all in training. I've been in the game too long, Danny, for this. I win it or get off. I'll get someone who can have a challenge. And with those stirring words ringing in their ears, the selection panel are convinced.
In many ways, Vinnie Jones is the quintessential English icon.
Especially now he's fixed that tattoo. So welcome home, Vinnie, to your rightful place. Centre midfield in England's worst ever team. And left back for England's worst ever team, Mark 1, was Phil Neville. A man with 59 caps to his name, who provided us with such memories as this.
Oh, he's given the penalty!
But if you close your eyes...
But perhaps his inclusion was as rash as some of his tackles.
One thing that Phil Neville has always had in his favour, you knew that Phil Neville was never going to be undone by some kind of off-field calamity involving Twitter, Facebook or prostitutes. It's just not in his nature.
Unlike Phil Neville, it seems English left-backs are afflicted by modern life and all of its distractions. None more so than suspect number 1.
Ashley Cole's a weird one. He's a world-class player, he's had the left-back position for years on merit, but he's so easily dislikable. You'd never tire of punching him in the face.
Yeah, he's consistently been an amazing defender, but what, he took photographs of his own dick. He shot a kid. He cheated on his wife. It's like he's done everything he can to go like, I know the nation loves a really good football player, but let's just test them to the max. And it turns out we do draw the line at people shooting kids and photographing their dick.
Must make a change, England.
Yes, when it comes to the relationship between England and Ashley Cole, well, it's complex. So before World Cup 2010, Ashley decided to make things more black and white.
Despite being one of the most hated people in Britain, Ashley Cole decided to write on his Facebook, I hate England and I hate English people, at which point I imagine 50 million people wrote underneath, the feeling's mutual, mate.
But Ashley is not the only left-back having issues in the digital domain. At one time, former Charlton and West Ham fullback Paul Konchesky was a prospect. But by the time he moved to Anfield in 2010, his two-cap international career was over. That's not where our story ends.
Paul Konchesky was a scary mother. It was incredible. It looked like it make a Nazi henchman look approachable. What a face. Oh.
Yes, Paul Konchesky had a face only his mother could love, which for Paul was a mixed blessing. Especially when his move to Liverpool wasn't going so well.
It can be such that fans turn unfairly against a player. In this case, I don't think that's justified. I think they turned quite legitimately on Konchesky, whose performances were deeply, deeply substandard. But in response to sustained criticism, Mrs. Konchesky took to Facebook, referred to the Liverpool fans as scouse scum, and demanded that they cease their protest, to which Paul Konchesky must have been looking on Facebook one night going, nice picture of a cat, oh, Mum.
Like, Paul Konchesky's mum's up there with Maggie Thatcher in terms of unpopularity, ain't she, in Liverpool? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, come on, love. I know she subsequently deleted the post, but, mate, have a word with your mother.
Another left-back exposed by social media was Wayne Bridge. While Wayne managed to earn 36 completely forgettable caps for England while playing for Southampton, Chelsea and Man City, life off the pitch was much more interesting.
Wayne Bridge, he's heartbroken and distraught over this embarrassing Footballers' Wives-esque saga with John Terry leading his girlfriend. Goes off to Hollywood, tail between his legs, drinks cocktails, gets pictured with pretty girls, and next thing we know he's linked with Kim Kardashian, a bona fide Hollywood, star.
And there was that rumour that went about for a while that Wayne Bridge was going out with Kim Kardashian, who if anything was stronger at the back than Wayne Bridge ever was.
For Kim Kardashian to come out and just completely derail that by asking the very pertinent question, who is Wayne Bridge? I think that was poetry.
While Paul Konchesky and Wayne Bridge were undoubtedly victims of social media, our next candidate for England's worst ever team, bad for the other side.
Love changes everything.
Michael Ball, get back in West End, mate. What, you been playing football, you crap?
A one-time prospect with Everton, Michael Ball was called up to England duty in 2001 and made a blunder-free debut. So what's the problem?
Michael Ball stands out for a number of reasons. One is his thuggishness, and also his commitment to battling homophobia in football. I mean, after the tweet that he sent, I really can't understand why any footballer would have a problem coming out of the closet.
While the nation was enjoying the camp antics of Anthony Cotton on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, an angry Ball took to Twitter to vent his fury.
Doesn't he know that football is a homoerotic sport as well? People out there just shouting from the terraces like, yeah, get in there, my son, good tackle. There's people there wearing his surname on the back of their shirt. That's civil partnership to me.
I think footballers shouldn't be allowed to Twitter. Just maybe all footballers should be just given a pad and a crayon, and they should just write down their thoughts on that, and then hand them to someone at the end of the day who vets them for them and go, yeah, we can tweet one of those 19 you wrote down.
Michael Ball's decision to tweet homophobic comments at Anthony Cotton shows just how far he'll go to ensure he's not remembered for his football career.
So the case for left back is crystal clear. But bringing the game into disrepute, it's got to be Michael Ball. While Michael Ball begins his term on England's worst ever team, let's remind ourselves of who we'll be playing alongside. In goal, it's safe hands Carson. While up front, it's a fearsome duo of Fash the Bash and goal thief David Nugent. Centre midfield is a mean machine powered by Vinnie Jones and Carlton Palmer. And as other nations quake in their boots at the thought of ever coming up against this lot, we forge ahead with proceedings. Now, if England's left backs were front page news, England right backs like to remain anonymous. Like original worst team ever alumni Warren Barton, whose England career read one riot, one full 90 minutes, and 16 seconds of sub against a mighty Brazil.
To be replaced by Warren Barton. On this occasion, he didn't touch the ball.
So 4 years later, who, if any, is in a frame to oust Warren? First to the dock, a man who wasn't always at the top of the pecking order.
Danny Mills is the status quo of defending head down, no nonsense, mindless boogies.
This is Mills with Beckham outside him. Mills went for glory, which was the wrong decision.
Mills to me always looked like he was the missing Mitchell brother from EastEnders. Like Grant and Phil just turned up at England training and said, yeah, he's playing there.
Bald since birth, Danny Mills. Very angry man. You just get the impression that he just wants to nut everyone, And I think you need that. You need that in a right back.
What he lacked in talent, he made up with in fury. He thought, if I'm angry, people will think, I'm just kind of a moody, brooding type rather than just a crap right back.
Danny Mills' angry demeanour could be useful in England's worst ever team. But hold up, who's this suspicious character lurking in the dressing room?
These are defenders' legs. Keith Curl.
Let me say yeah!
Back in the early 90s, Keith Curl was fast. He was the most expensive defender in England. and he could score penalties.
It's 1-1.
Call him up for England. Last time out, Keith Curle was installed as England's worst ever team centre-back because of his square peg and a round hole performance at right-back. And for that we apologise.
It was unfair for anyone to have ever suggested that Keith Curle is one of England's worst ever centre-backs. He's not one of England's worst ever centre-backs. He's one of England's worst ever right-backs.
So we're sorry. We realise now that Keith Curle should never have been playing centre-back for England's worst ever team. So we'll happily right this miscarriage of justice by putting him straight in at right-back. Exhibit A, my lord.
Just held on to him to stop him getting away.
Oh, Keith Curle, you know what? He always gets slagged, but to defend him, he was a great utility player. Keith Curle could be just as ineffective in a number of positions. It takes a lot of ability to do that.
Not easy for Keith Curle with Sedvin out of position.
Keith Curle is a name you give to a burglar, to one of the ones that leave shits in your lounge. I can imagine the policeman saying, oh, everything's been nicked. It looks like old Keith Curle's been out of his business again. That's what Keith Curle should be. I can imagine him doing it now.
Undoubtedly, for right back, there can only be one. It's Keith Curle.
4 years ago, Keith Curle and John Terry inhabited our centre-back berths. Now we've already shunted Keith out to the right. With the dust now settled on John Terry's indiscretions, is he really the worst centre-back England have ever produced?
John Terry is most likely one of the best centre-halves to have ever played for England, not one of the worst. Yes, he might be one of the worst human beings to have pulled on an England shirt, and indeed is one of the reasons why, despite all his errors and misdemeanours off the field, so many coaches kept on wanting to call him back.
OK, with Terry out of reckoning, let's reopen the case for the defence. Back in 1990, England could call upon the services of this mustachioed marauder. Nottingham Forest's Des Walker. Don't mess.
When Des Walker came into the England setup, he was the first player that England fans thought, this guy's sophisticated. Not only is he really fast, which is why there was the chant, you'll never beat Des Walker, but he's smart.
You'll never beat Des Walker. You'll never beat Des Walker. Des Walker's 48. He's still faster now.
So in 1992, when Des moved to Italy, the home of defensive football, England football fans everywhere believed he would become even more unbeatable.
But something messed with Des Walker's mind when he was over in Italy.
Once. Yeah? Not once. You haven't had it once? No.
So it's not on menu. Very rarely. It's not on menu. Very rarely.
It's not on the menu.
No.
He went over as any Englishman would, expecting lasagna on a daily basis. But he arrived and all of those expectations were squashed. Suddenly, his whole worldview unravels. He goes into an existential crisis.
Confused by the complexity of La Dolce Vita, soon everybody was beating Des Walker.
Overmars. Oh, this could be dangerous.
Starting with this Dutch debacle. A disaster that led to the unravelling of England's World Cup qualification.
The referee. Watch it. Watch, he's taking it. Went to sleep, didn't he? Hey, he went to sleep.
But I've got a theory about Des Walker. It's not his fault. The real Des Walker is still in Italy in some lock-up garage being held by the mafia. Please release him. This is a hostage appeal. Bring the real Des Walker back, please. We need you. Your family misses you.
While we consider the Walker family plight, who's this sliding into view? Sol Campbell, a candidate for England's worst ever team? You better believe it.
Sol Campbell is associated with all of English football's greatest disappointments. There is nothing like the disallowed goal in a crucial major tournament knockout game.
Waiting for Anderton's kick.
There's only a few minutes left. It's 2-2. England are playing with 10 men. The corner comes in, and Campbell, like a heroic salmon, gets his head on it.
Two disagreements, and Campbell!
Cue national jubilation.
Sol, he got our hopes up, scored a lovely header. Luckily, Alan Shearer was there to just put us back in our place.
No, the referee has ruled it out. Look at Shearer's right elbow. Well, there was a case for a free kick.
I mean, there's 3 bad things happened to me. Finding out Father Christmas doesn't exist. Finding out one of my parents wasn't my actual parent, and Sol Campbell scoring that goal and being disallowed.
And if that wasn't bad enough, 6 years later, he did it again.
Here goes Campbell's at the bar. It's free. It's in. No throw-in. The referee hasn't given it, I don't think.
There appears to be something that the gods have taken against Sol Campbell for.
Alas, the football gods can be cruel, and no one feels their wrath more than your loyal fan.
I don't want to talk.
We did go on to lose both those games on penalties.
Things we've gone through.
There was euphoria whenever England scored, and howls of absolute disbelief when that goal by Sol Campbell was disallowed.
I just want to get out of the place now.
He nearly scored, and he made us think it was possible. You can't do that to England fans. It's cruel. You know, just let us go out in the group stages and moan. That's what we want.
The winner takes it all.
That's going to mess with Sol Campbell in later life. You know, he's going to have a lot of them like, it would have goal, it would have goal. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to mess with you, isn't it? Like, once is bad, but twice. You've got to feel for him, haven't you, Sol? Like, not that much, but you've got to feel for him.
Sometimes it's not about Billy, it's about the effect you have on a nation. So you definitely don't want to screw it up in the big game. At the biggest tournament against your biggest rival. Do you, Matthew Upson?
Matthew Upson, for his inability to deal with a goal kick.
We are undone by the sort of stuff that an English centre-back should be treating like his meat and drink. Big balls over the top. I'm sorry to have used that phrase, but there you go, it's out there now.
Moyer takes a long run to get distance on those. Might work. Closer, straight down the middle. Upson trying to hold him. Closer's in! Miroslav Klose has given Germany the lead!
England concede the most English goal ever, straight through the middle. Klose is smaller, Terry's asleep, Upson can't get there.
What is he doing? It's a centre-back, what is he doing?
This is a goal you will see in every pub game that's been played this morning.
Premier League defenders totally exposed by one ball from the back.
Being outplaced by Miroslav Klose is not really on the same level as being outpaced by Ronaldo.
So it's an incredible goal to concede, especially at this level.
There's nothing else to say, really.
I bet there is. As for the next German attack, Matthew M. Walkabout.
Closer.
Get back. Get back.
Through again. It's Thomas Muller for Germany, and there's a man over. It's Podolski. Podolski's made it too. England are in trouble.
I remember watching that match over at Glastonbury, and we watched it on a big screen. And there were some German people sat next to me, and they were just laughing. And I'm like, yeah, I'd laugh and all if like he were playing for Germany. You know what I mean?
Nice big hole at the back for the Germans to penetrate.
Where are England, for goodness sake?
Well, Laurent, centre-back Matthew Upson is still in German territory.
The man over is Muller. He's got plenty of time, and he smashed it home.
The cliched view of English centre-backs is that they're very strong, very tough, very good in the air, but a little bit slow. Slow below the waistline and slow above the neckline. Matthew Upson kind of fits that stereotype.
And that stereotype is exactly what's needed for England's worst ever team centre-back. Get your kit, Matthew. You're on, son. And helping Matthew stand guard is Des Walker, whose culinary confusion meant arrivederci to England's World Cup qualifying campaign. As the worst England team ever begins to take shape, we head to the bandit country, known as right midfield.
Now Dyer.
Well, last time round, this hombre was hiding out. Kieran Dyer.
Lennon with a free run into the area. He's got past Sonajay. Oh, and it's an awful miss kick from Kieran Dyer.
33 caps, no goals, one lovely wristwatch.
Diamonds inside, yeah.
But are those stats alone worthy of a berth on the right wing? Well, it would seem Kieran has challenges.
Don't believe the hype. Just have a little patience.
No discussion of England's right flank can occur without the mention of the boy with the golden balls and the initials DB. Hang on a minute. This is England's worst ever team. We're talking Bentley, not Beckham. For while the original boy David was approaching the twilight of his England career, lurking in the shadows was another boy who would be king.
He's getting a bit old, like there's a new boy in town or something, you know, stuff like that. He's only banter and that, but...
I think David Bentley was that player who just had so much potential, but just assumed he was a great already, and he wasn't. Refused to play for England under-21s, right, because he was going to face burnout. Oh, David, you're too tired, are you? You can't play football.
Bentley's refusal to play for England's under-21s meant that when he eventually got his chance for England proper, well, his card was well and truly marked with the home crowd.
David Bentley.
Is he in a booze? Yes, I think that might have.
He's 21.
Yes, he pulled out of the summer trip, didn't he? Oh, Bentley is getting the bird.
Haven't we been here before?
And a red card for David Beckham.
Yes, there was a time when David Beckham was public enemy #1 in the eyes of all self-respecting England fans. But with hard work and dedication, he won back the hearts of the nation.
The British public love one thing more than a rags to riches story, and that's a riches to rags to riches story. Beckham's rise was all the more spectacular and compelling for the fact that it had followed such a dramatic fall. Bentley never quite had that redemptive quality to him. What were we going to celebrate? The fact that he'd recovered from a difficult injury-plagued 6 months at Tottenham.
Ouch!
Of course, one of David Bentley's defining moments was when he did actually emulate his hero, David Beckham, and was across all the tabloids with the headline, "Bend it like Bentley."
Oh, that's nice for David. Oh, no.
He thinks he's David Beckham. He's not David Beckham. He's David Bentley.
And so for the crime of impersonation, Bentley, you are sentenced to play right wing for England's worst ever football team. For years, England's left wing has witnessed some appalling behaviour. But after condemning Steve Hodge last time for the aiding and abetting of an Argentine pickpocket,
by the foot of Hodge, it was his hand he used to go past Peter Shilton. There can be no question, it was handball.
this time round, our investigation unearthed even more disturbing criminal activity. Our first suspect is Ashley Young, whose off-the-pitch antics saw him getting caught offside the night before a crunch qualifying match against Russia.
So as a young England player, 24 hours in advance, you'd think you'd be there, carbo loading, going to bed early, getting your head down, getting in the zone. But no, if you're Ashley Young, you're on webcam, you're pleasuring yourself in front of a girl you've never ever met.
Yes, people, that happened.
You're a footballer, the night before a big match. Don't go there. Webcam, it's not cool, man. And it's never gonna look flattering.
Won't you take a picture for me? Won't you take a picture? Won't you take a picture for me? Won't you take a picture? Girl, you should send a picture for me. You should send a...
Every young man in the country dreams of being a professional footballer and playing for England. But what do professional footballers dream of being? What's their dream career? What's their fantasy? And we now know. Professional footballers dream of being a travelling salesman.
Ashley's online fantasy came with its own foolproof cover story. He wasn't Ashley Young, he was Lewis, the travelling salesman.
If you're going to come up with a fake persona and stuff. Like, you still have your own face, so it doesn't really work. If you were in a balaclava going, I'm Lewis, the travelling salesman, she might have believed him, although probably wouldn't have been that up for getting kinky with him, because he would have been very, very threatening, wearing a balaclava and nothing else.
And if you can get that image out of your head for a second,
Click, click, snap.
then bring forward left wing suspect number 2, Stuart Downing.
England have been waiting for a left winger for years, and this guy emerged from at Middlesbrough, and he was crossing the ball with his left foot, and we thought, yes, finally, we've got a saviour, and his name is Stuart Downing. Stuart Downing. One more time.
Nobody there for Downing.
There never seemed to be any advancement in his progression. I saw him once get dispossessed by the Andorran right-back so many times. It was like watching a stupid Labrador run repeatedly into patio doors.
This creature of habit has been given 34 attempts to beat a fullback, cross the ball, or score a goal.
Stuart Downing.
Are these damning stats enough to condemn him to England's worst ever team?
Sat up nicely for him, but he sliced it.
He just crosses and crosses and crosses, doesn't score.
It's still Downing.
Crosses some more, doesn't score. Crosses some more.
Looking for Crouch here, Crouch! No.
It's got to be Downing. Because, you know, we've got players that have come in, played a friendly, messed it up. But the thing that is wrong with England, and this team should be full of, is the players that consistently, tournament after tournament, come in and just deliver mediocrity, but still keep getting picked. The whole country knows they're not good enough, but then they trot out in the England shirt, and Downing is a perfect example of that.
Stuart Downing, the court of public opinion has spoken, and their judgment is unanimous, finding you guilty of repeat offences on the left wing. That completes our lineup, but who will be the criminal mastermind pulling the strings of England's worst ever team, making them do their evil bidding?
Hi, I'm Kevin Keegan. Welcome to my soccer circus.
With the worst win ratio of any England manager, Kevin Keegan would appear to be a shoo-in. But seeing how he can take an average player and make them better.
Try and head it down if you can. That's better, that's better.
We're going to look elsewhere.
Fabio Capello is one of the greatest managers of the last 30 years. There's very little he hasn't won. And he came to England and went completely mad in no time at all.
Before a ball was even kicked at the World Cup in 2010. Mr. Capello, he's not happy.
He drank from the poison chalice that is the England management position, and he went cuckoo crazy.
Bonkers.
This is a man that's gone mad. He is a man that's gone mad, Capello. He was a stank.
I don't know what it was about 11 Englishmen running about that pitch, but something changed in Capello mentally. He started to punch Stuart Pearce. Who does that? The guy is called Psycho for a reason.
Only the England job could take you from being one of the greatest managers in Europe to having donkey ears on your head on the back of the sun.
I mean, in Fabio's defence, he got us to a World Cup. He did all right. He wasn't spectacular. Didn't set the world on fire. Whereas poor Steve McClaren, not only was he dull, he just failed to deliver in any way, shape or form.
Well, apart from creating one of the most indelible images of English football failure, looks like rain to me.
Did he actually manage England? Did that happen? The Wally with the Brawley? England were abjectly poor under his management. Bad tactics, selected the wrong players.
Anybody who says David Bentley, this is a quote, David Bentley's the new Beckham. Really, mate?
Couldn't get him to a major tournament. It's got to be McClaren. He is the worst.
The worst manager has to be Steve McClaren, without a doubt.
The worst England manager ever is McClaren. bar none.
So proving that people can neither forgive nor forget, reassuming the managerial hot seat is Steve McClaren.
And gentlemen, if you want to write whatever you want to write, you can write it, because that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
OK, we'll say it again. Steve, you're the manager of England's worst ever football team. Once again, our trawl through the seamy underbelly of English football has been emotional. Those emotions mainly involving anger, disappointment and regret. So let's survey McClaren's motley crew and remind ourselves of England's worst ever team. In goal for taking his eye off the ball, it's Scott Carson. While a left back for his Twitter crimes, it's Michael Ball. At right back, it's misfit Keith Curle. At centre back for going AWOL, it's Des Walker and Matthew Upson. Causing mayhem in centre midfield, it's Vinnie Jones and Carlton Palmer. On the right of midfield, it's the impersonator, aka David Bentley. While on the left, it's that repeat offender, Stuart Downing. Finally up front, it's the deadly duo of Fash the Bash and goal thief, David Nugent. And if that's not the worst team ever, well, it's too late now to argue. However, with the World Cup looming large once again, it's time to raise the flags and dare to believe once more. But remember, any one of Roy's boys are just one gaff away from staking their claim to membership of this most select band of rogues, rascals and ne'er-do-wells. Good luck, everybody.